So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon on Healthy Minds, a cross-council public mental health action plan. I'm Shazana, I'm the network lead for the Mentally Healthy Councils Network, which is hosted by Centre for Mental Health, and I'm going to be supporting today's event. It's good to see so many of you here, so please do add your name and where you're from in the chat, that would be great. I'm delighted to be welcoming Charlotte Perry and Graham Markwell from Wandsworth and Richmond Councils, who are here to talk about their cross-council approach to building mentally healthier communities. And they're also joined by Carlos, George and Shatha, who are going to share some case studies as well. So Charlotte, I think if you're ready, over to you.
Thank you so much, Shazana. I'm just going to start sharing my slides. Great. So my name's Charlotte Perry. I'm Public Health Lead, and I'm here with my colleague Graham Markwell, who's Senior Public Health Lead, who's going to start our presentation today, which is on Healthy Minds, our cross-council public mental health action plan for Wandsworth, and it runs across 4 years, so from 2026 to 2030.
Thanks, Charlotte. And yeah, it's great to see so many of you, and we're really excited to be able to share with you the work that we've been involved with over the last few years to get this cross-council strategy started. I'm just going to introduce the first few slides, then Charlotte will take over, and then we're going to hear from some of our partners that are out working, doing incredible work within our communities to address health inequalities and to support our communities to have better mental health. So yeah, I mean, this won't be new to you. We know that mental illness, mental disorder is increasing in England right across the life course. Children and young people, young adults and working age adults and older people all experiencing increases in the prevalence of mental health disorders. And we know that mental illness happens early in the life course. We know that by the time somebody gets to 24, we see 3/4 of the burden of mental health within our communities. And it is the single largest responsible cause of the burden of disease in the UK. And also, tragically, people with severe mental illness have a life expectancy that's 20 years or more shorter than the general population. So it really does matter. It's a critical time for us as local authorities and as systems to try and prevent this from happening. And that's what we're hoping to do from Healthy Minds. Next slide, please, Charlotte. So again, you will know the broad range of impacts right across the population. It impacts across all aspects of people's lives in terms of where people will live, the physical health they'll experience, the risk of drugs and alcohol, of criminal justice, of debt problems, homelessness, low educational achievement. It cuts right across. There are broad impacts that our communities are experiencing. Next slide. So a public mental health approach, we know that this is about coordination. It's about working across our population to promote mental well-being and to critically prevent mental ill health, prevent it from occurring in the first place, but also prevent it from deteriorating and getting worse. And so we do this by looking at the wider impacts on people's health, where they live, their job, their education, their experiences within their communities. All of those things are the things that shape people's mental health. Next slide. So it's all started off probably about 3 or 4 years ago with a mental health needs assessment. We did a big piece of work to look at the mental health need within our communities. And it was at a time just post-pandemic. and the impacts that that had. We saw increased demand. We saw our services really at full capacity, struggling to cope with the demand. Unmet need was significant. We know certainly at that time there were more people with mental health needs that we didn't know about than those that we did know. And we have seen the inequalities widening within our communities. So one of the key recommendations was this isn't sustainable. We have to do more to prevent these problems from happening. So our key recommendation was to develop a public mental health plan. Next slide, please. I just wanted to come back to Lord Darcy's report when he did his review of the National Health Service, and it was quite powerful and quite blunt in what he said. He said that the National Health Service is in serious trouble. People are falling through the cracks of public services, and the NHS is left to pick up the pieces. And he mentioned that interventions that protect health, so public mental health and public health interventions, tend to be far less costly than dealing with the consequences of illness. And this for me was the critical bit. The NHS, when it was set up way back in 1940, was not set up to go it alone. So protecting and improving people's health depends on a wider system of services that support communities, and that's about local government, that's about our community and voluntary sector working together as a team, as a system, to prevent the pressures that we're seeing every day on our NHS services. Next slide. So we started with what our residents said. So we went and did some extensive consultation and engagement. We engaged with our community groups right across Wandsworth, and they told us what thriving communities look like. And I'm not going to go through that list, but you can see that these are fundamentals, really fundamental conditions for people to thrive. And I like to use the analogy of plants. You know, if you have a plant needs nutrients, it needs the right environment, it needs light, some need shade. Lots of plants are very different in different ways, but they need their core kind of inherent needs taken care of. And that's what our residents said. You know, they want to live in safe, secure, warm housing that's not damp and mouldy. They want to have a stable job. They want to live in communities that are connected. They want to, when they need help, get services quickly. And they want to live in a borough that's free from violence, from abuse, from discrimination, all of these things that affect people's ability to thrive and succeed. Next slide. So we began to recognize that this was so much more than just services, that this was about building the foundations for good health and building the foundations for mental health. And we looked at the health foundations model in terms of building blocks for mental health, and recognized that this was so appropriate for us as systems to recognize. When I walk through the council offices and I head to my office, you know, I walk past community safety, I walk past housing, I walk past children's services, I walk past resources who are looking at how they can enable people to have better resilience in relation to the resources they have. I walk past our community services that are focused on physical activity. I walk past those that are focused on the environment and surroundings, and it just became apparent that absolutely everything we do within this organization relates to those foundations for mental health. So it shouldn't just be a public health focused approach on improving mental health. Everybody has a part to play in this, and that's what Healthy Minds set out to do. So we began to set up alliances across our huge organisation to really win the hearts and minds of our other departments, to recognise that actually we're all pulling in the same direction here. We want to create those thriving environments where people can achieve their potential and achieve the best health possible. And Healthy Minds was born. So I'm going to hand over to Charlotte now, who can take us through the rest of the slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. And so taking into account all of the amazing work that's been done in the community, the needs assessment, really looking at the data, but looking at what people said about what it looks like to be a thriving community, we built Healthy Minds around 4 priority areas. So you can see these on the screen here. And if you scan the QR code, it will take you to the full Healthy Minds document as well. So our main priority areas were growth and success. So this was really around kind of the basics that Graham was referring to: healthy homes, looking at the damp and mold, and education and skills, secure employment, money and resources. And then we moved across to healthy living and healthy lifestyles. So that was around eating well, diet, physical activity, but also making sure that the activity was accessible for people as well. And some of those more healthy lifestyle choices, so around drug and alcohol support too. We then look at community and environment, so about that support system and network that people have in their communities, their families, their friends, their neighbourhoods, but also their environment, and the transport networks around them. And then lastly, the foundations for well-being. And this one really is a golden thread throughout all of the other priority areas as well. So it's really supporting people to live well with a preventative approach. So making sure that we're intervening early on in their journeys. So I'm going to pause now, and I know in the agenda we had some space for some reflections. So we've asked the group a couple of questions. The first, if you can think of an example of cross-council working that supported residents' mental health. And then the second part of the question around what challenges you faced when working across the council. So do feel free to kind of put your responses in the chat. I have set up a Google Forms as well, but it might be nicer for everyone to view kind of their own comments in the chat, or if anyone wants to unmute and share any reflections, if they've already had the chance to think of this question, then do be brave and put your hand up as well, because we've got a few minutes here to kind of think and share our learnings with each other. So I'll give you a couple of minutes. Thanks, Shazana, for putting it in the chat. Rebecca?
I'll share an example if that's okay, from Buckinghamshire Council. So our public health team, we did a piece of work with our revs and benefits team to look at the current letter that goes out when people are behind in their rent and other bills, and kind of what was in there. And our social, oh my goodness, what's her name now? Sorry. Oh my goodness, the word's gone out my head now. I can't think what her title is. She's a behavioural science practitioner in our team. Sorry. She'd done some insight gathering with some of that cohort and the staff, and they worked to revise the letter and ensure that there was some signposting embedded in it, but also some training, some tailored training to the staff that are having the conversations, as many of them had kind of sort of highlighted that they wasn't really aware how it impacted mental health, or how it might present in a telephone call, kind of that someone was struggling. And it was implemented, and there's been some really positive feedback, and actually there has been an improvement that the Revs and Benefits team has reported. So that was quite a nice one that I thought I might share.
Thank you for sharing. That's such a great example, and you've even kind of in true public health fashion got the outcomes as well, which sound really positive. So thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
I know we had another example through Healthy Minds was our temporary accommodation team were creating new service leaflets. So that was information that they were giving to all of the new residents moving into temporary accommodation. And they did a call out to see what services they wanted to include. And I remember when we first reviewed it, they didn't actually have any of the mental health services in the borough. So it was really great to be able to input some of our kind of talking therapies, but also some of our more community level mental health support. So we included information about the libraries and kind of free services that they can access through them. So now every person that is starting in a new temporary accommodation will have that list of services available to them as well. Thank you. I can see Joseph's got your hand up as well, and there's some comments in the chat as well. So Joseph.
Hi, really good plan. Yeah, aligns really well and really closely with what we're doing in Birmingham with our mental health strategy, which is great. We've definitely faced some challenges ourselves working across council. We are the biggest local authority in Europe, so I guess that presents challenges in itself. I think one of the biggest ones for us is that kind of resource and capacity among other teams to fulfill this kind of public mental health work and that prevention focused approach. And to kind of win their hearts and minds for them to do so, as well as potentially to help them to understand why it's important and kind of build their knowledge in that way. It's definitely been something that we have found challenging, particularly we share kind of similar things to you in terms of healthy lifestyles where mental health might not be their kind of core focus, but we know that if they get it right, then the mental health will improve. So those are some of the challenges that we faced. I don't necessarily have a great solution apart from just trying to find that kind of one core colleague within that team who shares a similar passion as what we do and kind of latching onto that. We found that that's where we've probably had the most success, is finding that one core person that buys into what we're doing.
Thank you, Joseph. Yeah, it's been really difficult. And I know we really rely on our kind of individual relationships that we have in some teams that do have the passion for it. And I do have a slide later on around not necessarily all of the solutions, but a few tips that we've got in terms of maintaining momentum and engagement as well. So I've just seen in the chat, we've got challenging just how many teams and people there are. Yeah, exactly. And knowing what you don't know about who you can work with. So thank you for sharing those. I'm going to move on, but do continue to share any reflections in the chat. And there's also a forms as well if you want to share longer answers. So when Healthy Minds finally got approved this year, it was really exciting to kind of have a large launch event and invite all of our partners, residents and service users with lived experience to come together and really understand kind of what the next few years of Healthy Minds is going to look like. So I do have a short video to share with you, and this was filmed on the day of the launch event. So that is just a snippet of some of the amazing activities we had across the day. I'm sure you'll recognise some familiar faces as well. I saw some grins on the screen at different shots. And a massive thank you again to all of the speakers that presented from partners as well. It was great to have the Centre for Mental Health and the Health Foundation there with us on the day. So just two last slides from me, and this is our first year action plan. So while Healthy Minds is running across 4 years for governance purposes and to really make sure we're recording some of the outcomes, we have broken it down into annual action plans. So this allows us to report into several partnership forums and then also reporting into the Public Health Board annually. So we've tried to make sure that the actions and the outcomes are measurable. So for example, you can see quite a lot of them have numbers. So the number of staff trained, for example, the number of courses delivered, the number of new Healthy Schools awards given out, which really help kind of keep it measurable. And then looking at some of the outcomes, you've got a range from short to long-term outcomes as well. And this is my last slide. So it's really around some of the tips and tricks for implementation, because at the start of the programme, you know, you saw from the launch event, the energy was really high and a lot of the partners are really excited because it's kind of a new initiative that they've been brought into. But the challenge is then over the next 4 years, how are we going to maintain all of the partnerships and relationships we've built and maintain the momentum as well. So I've listed kind of 3 core steps, which I found really been helpful for maintaining the partnership engagement. And then we'll move on to the communications plan, which I think is also really, really crucial. So getting that initial buy-in is really important. And I know sometimes can be the challenge with some of these action plans and strategies. And that really comes down to exactly what we were saying before with Joseph around building relationships with the right people. But what does it look like in practice? So that can sometimes mean offering your time in their working groups and their priority areas and making sure that the actions within your own strategy really reflect kind of their own strategies and their own aims and objectives for that department. Because when you're working in alignment, it can be a lot easier to get time from those other departments as well. Secondly, and I guess quite obvious, but projects are most effective when done in partnership, and it can also avoid duplication and allow you to share resources, especially if kind of your council's in financially challenging times. This one's really important as well. You also don't want other departments to feel like you're claiming their work by using kind of their objectives within your action plan. So to avoid doing this, we always give credit and kind of use Healthy Minds as a platform to showcase good practice, both within the community, but also within other departments as well. So a few other ways we're maintaining momentum is ensuring that there's a feedback loop. So how can people actually influence the annual action plans? You know, while the document is published, it is flexible to kind of changes that are happening in the community across the 4 years. So having the feedback loop is really important for that. And then lastly, for the communications plan, we do have a newsletter that goes out every few months. We now have over 200 people, including kind of residents, service users, but also community groups subscribe to that. And that goes out every few months. So you can see an example in the bottom left there. We also partner around awareness days. So Mental Health Week in May, Suicide Prevention Day in September, for example, are some key awareness days that will be reminding people of Healthy Minds, but also bringing services to residents' doorsteps so that they can see what's available to them locally. Lastly, branding and recognition has been really important so that people remember Healthy Minds. We've obviously got the logo, which really helps. And we do have kind of a mailing list that we share whenever we present Healthy Minds to different departments so that they can keep in touch and find out more about the work that's going on. So I'm going to stop there, and we're really lucky today to have 3 amazing community leaders with us in the room who are going to really talk to the work that they're seeing on the ground and how they're supporting mental health at a community level. So firstly, I'm going to introduce George, who's going to talk more about the work that they do at Carney's community, which is supporting and protecting young people in Wandsworth. So over to you, George, and I know you've got some slides you want to share as well.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm just going to put my timer on because I know I can talk quite a bit, so I want to make sure I don't go over time. And I will share my screen. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. So, does that come up?
Yeah,
Yep.
thanks, George.
Right. So yes, I'm from Carney's Community, a charity based down in Battersea, where we target some of the most disadvantaged young people in the borough. We target aged 11 to 30, but we do have quite a wide range. We don't turn people away, so we have lots of other people that come down, and we have a specific focus on people who've been impacted by knife and gun crime and those who are involved in the criminal justice system. So the things that we do. What we're probably best known for is our boxing. So we deliver a lot of free boxing fitness sessions. We have 3 sessions 6 days of the week. It's not competitive boxing. We don't put people out to compete. It's much more using it as a tool for fitness, but also as a tool for employment, because we also get some of our participants trained up as gym instructors and personal trainers, and then we employ them in our social enterprise. After the boxing sessions, we run a youth club and we feed all of the young people. So we have general youth club activities, but also get everyone sat around at the table together and eating some home-cooked meals. We then started a bike workshop where we fixed bikes, got bikes that had been donated and did them up, and then let the young people work on them and they got to keep them. We then developed this into actually another social enterprise, and we now use that to employ some of our other participants as bike mechanics. We have a music and podcasting studio, so we've got young people that come in and then get access to the studios and are able to do their own, create their own podcasts and also do their own tracks. And we've had a bit of spoken word stuff that's been done recently from some of the participants, so a good way of expressing themselves. In the last couple of years, we've had a big focus on employment and employability. So we've gone out to the participants and found out what kind of courses and qualifications they wanted to get, and we've tried to get funding to be able to put those on. So some of the ones that we've done over the last year is we've had this barbering qualification. We recently did a nail course that was done where young people got 3 diplomas out of that. We then had a construction course that we deliver as well. That's just been completed. We have the eyelash extension course, and then we have, as I spoke before, the personal training and gym instructor qualifications, and these are a few examples of some of the people who've qualified as that. Within all of our group sessions, we deliver group-based mentoring. So we have people who will support young people if they have additional needs. It could be behavioural issues, could be mental health needs, could be physical disabilities, and that's to ensure that they're able to engage in a group activity. We then do key work, which is central to all of the work that we do. So the key work is for the people who are facing the biggest challenges, and we provide a lot of support around involvement with the criminal justice system, getting into work, personal development, family issues, housing, whatever the issues you get. And this is a young man who's a massive success story for us. He was chosen 2 years ago to do the coin toss at the men's Wimbledon finals because of all of the barriers that he'd managed to overcome. So that's it for my slides. I will stop sharing, and I just wanted to come on to how we kind of address mental health in the work that we're doing. So our work is very much relational work, focuses on connection before correction. We often get people referred over who've come from like intergenerational offending families, and we're asked, well, have you fixed them after 3 months? And we're very clear that that's not what we do. We develop relationships, we provide support, and once we've got that support, then we provide the challenge, then we provide the attempts to correct the work that they may be displaying. All of our work is face-to-face work. It's not virtual. I understand the benefits of virtual work, but it helps with socializations and connections with the young people that we're working with. Many of them are not in mainstream school, so not only are they not getting a good academic education, they're also not getting that socialization, which is essential for future development. I spoke about having the session-based mentors. We have those mentors in the sessions just to ensure that we're able to provide those young people who might normally struggle and might end up in other areas having to do work on a one-to-one basis. Then we've got the courses and the qualifications. Lots of young people come out of, if they have gone to education, come out with no qualifications. And we want to give people the opportunity to achieve and do well in things, and we also want to give them the opportunity to do stuff that they want to do. And we do very much the same with the employment work that we do. The employability work is finding them jobs that we can support them with, that they're interested in doing, and then having aftercare for that. I remember a number of years ago, the Job Centre did the work programmes, which was deemed as a big success for getting people into work. So I think they got 80% of the people who'd completed a work programme into employment. But what they didn't tell you is then there was about a further 80% that dropped out after 2 weeks because they didn't have that ongoing support, that ongoing care, or they were put in a job that they weren't interested in doing. So we're very, very focused on what people actually want. Being able to provide food for a lot of the young people who are not getting proper meals, especially if they are out of education. That's often where people get their 1 square meal a day. So we provide that, and you can't underestimate the importance of providing a safe space for these young people to attend, and something that provides them with the opportunity to belong, and as I said earlier, opportunities to achieve. A lot of the young people we work with are impacted by gangs, and are involved in gangs, and when people ask how do you get them out of a gang, you have to get them into another one. They're in a gang because they're seeking something. They want that belonging, they want that connection. And so what we try and do is provide an alternative to what they're currently getting. I'm sure I don't need to say too much about how sports and fitness impacts mental health. It's a huge impact. As I say, we're open to everyone. The benefit of boxing fitness is that everyone's goals can be completely different. Everyone's abilities can be completely different. One of the most successful participants that we've had has been in a wheelchair and can't move from his chest down. So we find ways of working with everyone, and we're able to individualise all the goals for them. Then the one-to-one support through key work is key for me. It's based around what a good parent will provide a child. So it's all around long-term, consistent, unconditional support with empathy, something that sadly lots and lots of the young people we're working with have not received before. We also do some kind of targeted mental health work. We have access to some counselling, unfortunately not enough. We're trying to get some more funding to be able to increase that. And we've recently started doing therapy groups. So we've got a boys therapy group and a girls therapy group. The boys called Kings to Connect. The girls one, we're still working on the name for it, but a working title is Girls Hub. And within that, we're not calling them therapy groups. We're not calling them counselling groups or mental health groups. We're calling them groups where they engage in activities and they're able to get that mental health support from each other and from the staff that are working with them in a way that's similar to kind of play therapy. And then central to what we do is the wraparound work. So we can't provide everything, so we need to be able to link in with other organisations. We've got very good networks within the voluntary and community sector, as have we with the local authority and statutory sectors, which I think is essential. A lot of joined up work going on there. The people that we employ, the vast majority are ex-participants. They're people who've been through our programme, have managed to come out the other side, and are real life role models to young people who may be facing similar issues. All of our staff are mental health first aid trained, and we work with other organisations who are more experienced with mental health to support where we're struggling. So we do a lot of work with CAMS. We've got an amazing CAMS manager who works at the Youth Justice Service, and he does a lot of consultancy for us. So lots of the young people who might be willing to meet with our workers because they've got a relationship but aren't willing to meet with a mental health service, in order to support our staff, they can then go and speak to Ali, they can highlight what the concerns are, and he comes up with resources and methods of how to engage those young people in a way that's going to be positive for their mental health, which in turn gives our staff a lot more confidence when it comes to dealing with these sorts of things. And my alarm is just about to go off, so I've managed to do it in 10 minutes. It's a record.
That was amazing timing, George. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing the amazing work that you and your staff are doing at Carney's community. I think it's so important that those young people have those trusted relationships and you're able to give them the time and the trust and the safe space to create those. So I think it's really powerful that you've been able to share with everyone what you do, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
I'd really like to introduce now Shatha, who's going to talk more about the MHIP hubs in Wandsworth as well. And I think you have some slides to share as well.
I indeed do. I'll share my slides very quickly. Hello everyone, my name is Shatha. I'm the Community Engagement Lead at the Ethnicity and Mental Health Improvement Project, MHIP. I think I highly agree with George. Once you're doing your work is providing multiple services at the same time, it's really difficult to cap everything within 10 minutes, but we'll definitely try. First of all, thank you so much, Charlotte, for inviting us to be part of this meeting, and congratulations, this amazing initiative, Healthy Minds. It's really comforting and reassuring to hear about the amazing work that's happening around the borough. I think we take pride in also our relationship building with many of our organization partners and statutory services to provide the best support possible for our communities and for the residents within the borough. Just to give an overview of the project we're working on, it's called the Ethnicity and Mental Health Improvement Project. And what is the Ethnicity and Mental Health Improvement Project and why we're here? We are providing mental health support for people from Black and ethnic minorities. The reason why we're here is to reduce inequalities in experiences, in accessing, experiencing, and the outcomes when it comes to mental health services and mental health care. We provide cultural-based care, and we are based within the communities that we're supporting. We work with the NHS services, and they are our partners. We help people re-engage back into the services if they're not ready to re-engage back into the services, or they had a bad experience. Unfortunately, we provide the alternative until they're ready. And once they do access the services, we advocate for them and we walk through that journey with them just to make sure that they are provided by the care that is suitable for them and that is tailored to their own unique needs and cultural backgrounds. Just a few statistics when it comes to race inequalities within the mental health services. Those are the most recent statistics. Unfortunately, we're still dealing with health inequalities within the Black and ethnic minorities. Is still pretty much prevalent. And as much as we try to reduce the race inequalities throughout all of the borough and throughout all of the care services, but they still exist. And I think it's important that we recognize this fact and do something about it instead of just blaming and pointing fingers. But it exists, and we need to acknowledge that it exists so that we can do something about it. I'll run through very quick statistics just to give you an idea of what sort of reality is that those communities they have to go through when accessing mental health services. People from Black and Black British background, they're 8 times more likely to go under the community treatment order compared to someone from a white British background. Black and Black British people, they have a rate of the community treatment order rates are 7 to 11 times higher than someone from a white British background, and those disparities peaked as you mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, that COVID had an impact, and unfortunately people from Black and ethnic minorities were affected the most. Underrepresented communities were the one who were hit the hardest by the COVID and the pandemic, and that was seen in when it comes to physical care, but also mental health services. People from Black and Black British background, they are more likely to experience longer periods of detention under the Mental Health Act, and they're more likely to also be administered much more the recommended dose of medication once they are admitted and sectioned under the Mental Health Act compared to someone from a white British background. The psychotic disorders are more prevalent in the Black men, and it goes to up to 3.2% compared to 0.3% to white men and 1.3% compared to Asian men. Ethnic minorities across the borough and across the UK, they have poor access and worse experience and worse outcome when it comes to accessing statutory mental health services compared to their white British people. And those statistics, they are based, and they're very likely to be because of racism, whether it's institutional racism, structural racism, or interpersonal racism when they access those services. Why we're here after we really try to address those issues and do something about them. And one of the ways that we're trying to combat the impact of health inequalities by creating mental health and well-being hubs within the community, and where people can access the mental health support by accessing culturally more focused and community-based care until they're ready to access the mental health services. We are here because when people actually access the mental health services, they're more likely to do so through police and criminal justice system, and they are more likely to relapse once they release, especially men, and especially Black men in particular. And they're forcibly restrained and given more than the recommended dose and the medication when they're sectioned under the Mental Health Act. Those are institutional racism that we're struggling with, our communities is struggling with, but also there's a stigma that we also need to address within the community that's preventing the people from those communities to accessing mental health services. There is a stigma that's related to cultural or faith-based stigma, and we also need to address those and work around them and change the narrative around mental health services. But once people do access the mental health services, we want to make sure that this service is tailored to their own unique cultural needs and familiar structure, and there's a good understanding of what sort of service that is more suitable for their own unique needs. And we work with the services to help them understand how culture impacts their experience growing up, whether it's growing up in the UK in different systems, or supporting elderlies within different communities. And our hubs, what we provide at our hubs is we provide first first of all, we provide the environment where people come together. George mentioned how important it is for people to find a safe environment where they just can come and they feel that they belong to that community. The sense of belonging is very, very important. And once we cultivate that trust, people would engage into the services. There's always mislabeling of people when it comes to their disengagement. They're not willing to disengage, to engage with the trust. There's rebellious. They're not compliant with the treatment. But actually, the whole reason why they're not compliant with the treatment is because there's mistrust in the services. The first thing that we're trying to do is to build trust within our communities, and the way we do it is being based in the communities. We are in spaces that people frequent regularly, and those spaces, they are trusted spaces where people feel safe. MHEB hubs we were based previously at a South Asian community center, which is called Mushkilasan, and this has been a safe and trusted environment community center within the South Asian community for the past 30 years, where people come when they're the most vulnerable and they don't have anywhere else to go, and they don't have anybody to support them further. Our other hub was in a church, a New Testament Assembly Church. And we do recognize how faith and spirituality is important to cultivating that trusting relationship and that safe environment for people to be in. But while also simultaneously we are reducing the stigma. And some people, when there are faith misbeliefs around mental health and mental health services. So we work very, very closely with those faith leaders also to address those stigmas. I'm very happy to report that we moved into our own building at the moment because we expanded very, very quickly and we needed our own unique hub with our own unique mental health support. Before we address those mental health inequalities, we wanted to build that trust. And once we felt that we established that trust within the communities, we felt that it was necessary for us to move to a bigger place where we offer much more wider services and reach more communities. We don't also want, just because someone from a specific ethnic minority doesn't mean that all the ethnic minorities, they're the same. And we need to recognize that there are different communities within the ethnic minorities, and those ethnic minorities, they also have very, very different needs. And we don't want to reinforce racism by saying, oh, all ethnic minorities, they're the same and they require the same thing. So we wanted also that independent place where people, anyone from any background, from the Black and ethnic minorities, they feel that they belong, and there's just no association with a specific ethnic minority. So the transition was necessary at that specific point in time, and we've been in the new place for a week now, and we've been very busy. And decoration is still underway, so it's just not what it looks like right now. I think it's going to look very different in the next few months. I'm hoping, because I don't like white walls, and we're trying to reduce the clinical aspect as much as possible. But funding issues. Do I need to speak more? No. So I'll just leave it at that. What we offer at our hubs. We offer one-to-one mental health assessments, and we have a clinical practitioner nurse that is based at our hub, and she is very, very helpful when it comes to working between the NHS services and the single point access team and the community-based mental health workers. This is a very good link between us and the clinical services, so we provide that holistic support for our community. We also offer care navigation and advocacy services. We take pride in our partnerships, and this is the only way we can provide the holistic support. We can't do everything by ourselves, and many other organizations, I'm sure they feel the same way, but once we come together, we support our community holistically, and we make sure that the support is whatever support that they need, they can access for us to achieve the ultimate wellness that we are trying to achieve. The statutory partners that we work very closely with, the home treatment team, the community mental health teams, the GPs, Wandsworth single point access, the social services, Wandsworth early intervention, and for sure Wandsworth Council. Once we refer our guests, we walk through that journey with them. We don't leave them. We don't just throw the referral. We make sure that this service is tailored to their needs. There are many language barriers. There are just issues with navigating the system, just understanding the form filling and understanding how to go through that process. It could be the thing that is preventing them from accessing those services. And we also provide a wide range of creative therapies for our communities, for people who are not ready to access one-to-one mental health support, but there's also isolation that we need to address within those communities. So we provide that creative therapies for people to come together, express themselves, and also connect with each other and with other communities.
Sorry,
once
Shata.
they are ready. Am I running over time?
Sorry, I just want to make sure that Carlos has time as well. So I am going to pause you there, but please do maybe share the link for MHIP in the chat as well, so people can read more about it, because the work you do is absolutely incredible, and I don't want to cut you short. But I am going to introduce Carlos now, who's going to talk about the work that she's done with the Hope Atrium, but also kind of wider community work that she's involved with as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte, and thank you for the invitation to be here. And I'm really pleased that it worked out that I could join you. And just really, it's such a privilege to be able to talk with the network about the work that we've been doing we're based in Tooting, but actually we work right the way across Wandsworth, and we're keen to. I'll start with talking about some of our two main organizations that I'm key in using those organizations to promote mental health and to help people to thrive. So let me just share my slides. Okay, I'm sure you can see my slides now. Thank you. Brilliant. So let me go back. The Hope Atrium. The Hope Atrium was started, well, we started in 2009, and that came out of concerns about the amount of knife crime that was very prevalent in that period in and around us. In the road that we were spent quite a lot of time, and also myself and my business partner, we were connected with the New Testament Assembly, which was mentioned by MHIP. And just locally, there were 3 stabbings that took place in a very short space of time. And that really caught our attention and caused us to think that we really did need to to think about what it was that we could do that might make a difference. And out of thinking around that, we recognized that actually we didn't have resources or couldn't see ourselves having resources to be able to deal with the range of needs that young people would have. And so my own background in terms of my academic work was on systems thinking and recognizing that actually if you wanted to deal with a complex problem, it was important to go upstream, away from the problem, and to actually deal with some of the issues at the source of the problem. And so that was the thinking that caused us to recognize that maybe what we needed to do was to work with parents. And out of that, we did parent leadership, and we also we ran the strengthening families, strengthening communities courses, and realized that actually in doing that, in working with parents, we were able to influence many more children than we would be able to do if we were trying to do it on our own. And I think the thing that actually just being on this call at the moment and listening to both George and to Shafia talk, I recognize it's so important to have different types of interventions with different perspectives happening in the same area, and also for community organizations to be playing their parts alongside statutory bodies, because we each have different things that we're able to do. And so the Hope Atrium, you notice that actually it's an acronym. It stands for Health, Opportunities, Participation, and Empowerment. And we're focused on working with people in the community from the communities that are experiencing the problems that we often bring a lot of attention and try to make a difference with. We felt it was really important to have those community leaders involved and to have their perspectives. And so we were focused very much on prevention rather than a service that deals directly with the issue that is at hand. So I'm just very quickly now, because of time, going to move on and tell you some of the things that we've been doing later on beyond the work around training and working with parents. Out of that work, we began to realize that actually people had very poor understanding of mental health, and that quite often when people from the communities that we were working with, and we were focusing particularly on Black communities, and we found that actually the perspectives and their understanding of mental health was very much around mental illness, and more than that, severe mental illness. So therefore, unless you were displaying signs of being incredibly ill, most of the time people were not, were assuming that you were well. And quite often we heard so many times people saying, it was such a surprise to find that actually somebody was so ill that they needed to be sectioned. And we realized that the patterns that were being talked about, which was around the numbers of the overrepresentation of Black people entering services through the police and through coercive means, was actually connected up with the perceptions of mental health and mental illness in the community. And that caused us to think that we needed to do a piece of work which was about educating and empowering community leaders. And I don't mean formal leaders, I mean people who have leadership capacity, people who are influential in their own networks, to educate them to become well-being champions. And that's what we did. We were focusing on very much helping them to recognize the issue, the things that actually were affecting their own mental health and well-being. And we were working at helping them to feel able and equipping them to be able to go out and reduce stigma in their communities. And they did it very much in informal ways, one conversation at a time. Some of them did run groups, but most of the time they were just having conversations with people and over time reducing the stigma. Because what we found is that quite often when stigma is high, stigma about mental health is high, people do not access services. In fact, we found that people were telling us things like, I don't even want to be close to a mental health institution because otherwise somebody might see me and assume that either I had a mental health problem, or they might assume that actually a member of my family has a mental health problem. So those were some of the things that we did. More recently, we have been commissioned to do a piece of work which is working with organizations that serve communities with a higher than average risk of mental illness and crisis. And we're using the same sort of strategies and working using mental health first aid and putting around it this understanding that actually you can, by the interventions you make, you can actually make a difference to the people that you serve. So we're trying to build capacity for reducing mental ill health and really for keeping people away from crisis. So I'm just very quickly going to talk about another organization that I work very closely with, and this is the Hope for Wellbeing Project. And this organization it's a membership organization, and it's based on working with people, again, largely from communities that have a higher than average risk of mental illness. We work with people who have already experienced a mental health problem. Many of them have had a severe mental health problem, and we support them for as long as necessary to recover. So we provide well-being activities. We use things like music and dance, and recently we've been doing walking football and just a number of different things that actually help the individuals to build community, to feel safe, to feel that they belong, because that's one of the things that often happens when somebody has had a mental health problem. They lose a lot of the support, the community support around them. People step away from them. So our work is very much about building inclusion. It's about helping people to feel that they can participate. It's about supporting their recovery. For many people, it's a radical idea that they can actually recover from a mental health problem. Many people assume that actually once you have a mental health problem, that's it. It's only about managing the problem. But what we're doing is actually helping people to identify that recovery is possible. And we are very much about helping to build community engagement. I think that's the theme that I've heard as each of the community organizations have presented, that actually we can't do it on our own. We only do it because of the connections that we're making. So I have no idea whether I've managed to stay in time in the space of time that I have, but I hope that I have.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Yeah, that was brilliant. And thank you again to all of our speakers, because I think without our community organisations, we really can't do the work that we're doing to support residents' mental health. So really thank you to you for everything you're doing each day in our communities and on the ground. And thank you so much to the forum for having us. I know I'll pass back to Shizana now. I am happy to stay on, but I'm aware we're over time, so I'm also happy to answer questions via email.
Thanks, Charlotte, and thanks everybody else as well. That's a really informative session. So I hope people have found this really helpful and useful in terms of insights and sharing best practice. And yeah, just having kind of case studies and examples of how you do the work really brings the work to life. So thank you everybody, to Charlotte, Graham, George, Shatha and Carlos for sharing and coming today as well. I'm sorry we have run over late. We don't have time for Q&As, but if you do have any final questions, please do include them in the chat, and we can stay behind a couple of minutes if you want to ask virtually. That's fine as well, and we can continue the conversation offline. But if there's no other questions, then I have included a survey in the chat as well. If you can just spare a couple of minutes to fill out the form, this really helps us to look at how we're delivering our webinars and look at areas that we could improve as well. I've also included my email in the chat, so if you want to reach out to me, look at kind of if there's anything that you want to share with the network, or if there's anything we can do to support you or include in our newsletter, or add to our resources page, then please do reach out to me. So I think what's left to say is, yep, thanks again to all the speakers, and thank you all as well for joining us and bearing with us as well. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you
Thanks a
so
lot.
much for having us.